let me just recapitulate what I did in the end yesterday. One is we derived normal stress expression for normal stress and shear stress on a plane that is making an angle alpha, that is making an angle theta with respect to x axis. So, it is a cut section is we have cut this, load P is here. So, we have found out the two components of stresses that exist on this plane, and now what I did not say is the maximum values of these. If you change the value, if you vary theta, then what happens to this value sigma theta? First of all, cosine theta can have a maximum value of only what 1, and it will be 1 when theta equal to 0. So, when theta equal to 0, so cosine theta maximum so it is very clear that the maximum value of sigma theta will be equal to P by A, and that will correspond to sigma x, that means that will correspond to when this is normal is along x axis, normal to the plane is along x axis. What about tau theta? Maximum will be theta will be 45, because when theta equal to 0 it is 0, when theta equal to 90 this is also 0. So, the maximum value will be, if you see this, when sin theta cosine theta are 1 by root 2. So, it is, so tau theta is maximum when that is equal to how much? P by A 1 by root 2, 1 by root 2 when so that is equal to, that gives me, that is equal to P by A and 2, 1 by 2, or it is, we can also write, since sigma x is, so the maximum value of normal stress is, if the maximum value of normal stress is known, that is sigma x, so it is sigma x by 2. And this is tau 45 degrees. Because what we are doing, we are changing, the point is same. What we are doing, we are cutting this rod by having different inclination. We are cutting by a plane passing through the same point P, this point is same, here also this point is same. We are cutting by plane that is having different inclination. So, as you go on, now what is the value of at 45, what is the value of sigma theta on that plane where tau maximum That means on a plane so when it is 45, so yes, this one is tau is maximum, tau is maximum here. What is the value of sigma theta on this plane? What is this sigma theta? Just substitute the value 45 cos 45. So, 2 p by 2a or sigma x by 2 or p by. So, sigma this sigma theta is sigma theta at theta equal to 45 is p by 2a or maximum value divided by half of the maximum value. It is half of the sigma maximum. So, on a plane where shear stress is maximum, okay, on a plane where shear stress is maximum, so this is sigma x by, that is 45. There exists a normal stress whose value is half of the maximum value of sigma x, okay, and sigma x happens to be maximum. You did not say anything about when theta equal to 0, when theta equal to 0, what is the value of tau? 0. So, on a plane where normal stress is maximum, shear stress is 0. So, this is very important fact. So, at the same point when you are changing, see this is the cross section by which you are cutting the rod. So, this I am changing the orientation like this, okay, and the two values, that is normal stress and the shear stress, they are also changing. Point is same. So, point we are still computing the stress at the same point, only thing on a different planes, okay. So, on a different planes these two values are going on changing, and maximum value occurs when theta equal to 0, maximum of normal stress occurs, and on that plane shear stress is 0. So, this is a very important fact, that wherever normal stress will be maximum on a plane, shear stress will be 0, but the plane on which shear stress will be maximum, normal stress will not be 0, it will be half of the value of maximum normal stress, okay. So, this is a simple way that I. Then yesterday I was in little hurry when I tried to explain to you what is the concept of this factor of safety in the design. I hope you have understood, but I mean I did not feel very comfortable. So, let me just I will just revise that. So, this is today is 11th August. factor of safety FOS So then what did I say? What is factor of safety? See, normally you will be given the yes, design this rod to take up an axial load of P. So, P is given to you, but you are not given, you are also given the material, yes, design a rod to carry an axial load of P, P value, you know, so many newtons. This is all you are given, plus you are given the material, and the material is steel, whose sigma strain diagram looks like this. Yes. So, this is the stress strain diagram for steel. You have a straight portion, then you have a strain hardening portion, and then. So, these two things are given to you and you have to design. When you say design, design means please find out the cross sectional area. Design means design the, find out, you know, fix the cross sectional area. So, what you will do, normally you know that stress, normal stress sigma is equal to P over A. A simple formula you have got, and therefore area of cross section area of cross section A is P over sigma. Yes, load is given to you. Now, what is the stress value that you should take? Now, stress value, if I take maximum stress to which the member can be loaded, maximum stress, that means under that load P, the stress level inside the material will be, let us say, this is the maximum linear, because from here linear zone ends, it will go into plasticity. So, I do not want the material to become plastic. So, this is the maximum sigma maximum. So, this is, by the way, what is this called? It is called yield stress sigma y. This point where this ends, yielding start, this portion is called yielding, material starts yielding. So, then this is the sigma y, maximum is sigma y. Now, if you want that level to be maintained in the body of the material, then a slight increase in load will make the rod fail. I do not want, we would not like to have that kind of situation. So, we should always have some reserve strength. All these buildings where we are sitting, you know, if you are just on the threshold, then it is very dangerous, you know. Suddenly one extra student comes here and then the whole building will come down. So, that is, we do not want that situation. So, we always keep some reserve strength. So, what is the best way? We will say let the stress level inside the body be restricted. Stress level should not reach maximum, not reach sigma y, but let us say it reaches here. So, I will say here sigma allowable, A double L allowable. So, sigma A is allowable and that I fix. Let us say I want to keep a factor of safety of 2. So, I will fix it at sigma y by 2. So, I will now design my, therefore, I will use so, I will talk to her. So, I will say that let sigma A be equal to sigma y by 2, and therefore, I will area of cross section required will be given by P by sigma A. So, I will not use sigma y, but I will use, since this value is half. So, area of cross section that will come out of this calculation will be twice. So, I have provided more area of cross section. So, stress level will always be there, will not exceed half the maximum value. Okay. So, it has got a, and therefore, we have got some safety. So, this margin is called factor of safety. I am providing a factor of safety of 2, I am providing a factor of safety of 1.5, or anything, So, most of the civil engineering buildings, we have a factor of safety of around anything between 1.5 to 2.5. It all depends upon the knowledge about that material. If you know more precisely the behavior of that material, then you will keep less factor of safety. More you know about a thing, that means you are confident. But if you do not know, if there is a lot of variable, then you will keep larger factor of safety. Is it clear? Okay. Okay. So, now we will proceed further. Yes, if you see this book, we have almost covered chapters 1 and 2, barring few things here and there, and chapter 3 was your self study, that is stress strain curve. So, I am not covering, and we are going to have number of questions from there. So, if you have not studied, then it is at your own peril. So, you will face the consequences. Okay. Now, let me generalize this. So, now I will just tell you generalization. I think now you have got a fairly decent idea about what do you mean by stress. Stress comes out of the I mean when you load a body, when you subject it to some kind of disturbance, obviously the body undergoes deformation, and then the action of one particle over the other one is a measure of, that is what we try to see as stress. What is it is a internal stress distribution. It is I should not say stress, it is a internal force distribution, and that gets set up in the body after the loads are applied. So, we try to find out what is the state of forces inside the body, and stress is a fair amount of, gives you a fair amount of measure of knowing as to what is happening inside the body. And for that matter, we have taken a very simple axial rod, and I have tried to give you simple concept of normal stress and shear stress. Now, let me generalize this concept of stress, because stress is a very fundamental quantity in our study of mechanics of solids. Not only this mechanics of solids, but all subsequent courses of structure analysis, all structural mechanics courses, dynamics, anything that we study from now onwards, stress will be required. By the way, concept of stress is also required for electrical engineers, chemical engineers, material scientists. Okay. So, aeromechanical civil, of course, that is the basic, because we deal with structures, we deal with bodies, but others also need it. Nowadays we design these PCB boards, all these electronic boards, they undergo a lot of stress, these electronic boards, because of the heat that is generated. Some current passes through it, so heat is generated, heat tries to expand the material and stresses are set up inside, and these stresses lead to the mismatch of contacts inside. You have got so many contacts, so many soldering, so many wires are going here and there. So, these stresses, because there will be stress and strain associated. So, what happens? Many contacts get loosened up. So, it is very important that we do stress analysis of these PCB boards for their reliable behavior. We must, if you want that your electronic circuitry should work efficiently, then we should know, what is happening inside the body. So, and it is not electrical engineers that analyze these PCB, it is the civil engineer. So, anywhere if you go to any electronic industry where R&D section is there, you will find large number of civil engineers who will be doing this kind of work for them. Okay. So, if you have a body, general body, now I will generalize. So, I am just saying a general body is there of any shape and size. It is under the action of, now this is first it is stress free, then I apply forces, and these forces are keeping this body in state of equilibrium, means sum of forces is net force is 0. Newton's second law is applicable, there is no acceleration. So, force, net force acting on the body is 0, and if it is a rigid body, because Newton's law we study for particle, if it is a rigid body also, we get how many conditions of equilibrium are there for this body to remain in, how many? For any general body 3 dimensional, this is a 3 dimensional body, 3D, 3 dimensional body of any shape and size, this is in state of equilibrium. So, how many conditions of equilibrium? From this side, one person, quickly, how many conditions of equilibrium exist for this body? Yellow white t-shirt, yes, 6 conditions, very good, but you are not confident. So, 6 conditions of equilibrium, 6 conditions, because it is a rigid body. Rigid body means, I mean the body is large, it is not a rigid body, but even for rigid body, you know, whether the body is rigid or deformable, conditions of equilibrium are same. Okay. For body to remain in equilibrium, so you have learnt this in the first course. So, this body, if it is a deformable or rigid, if you want this to remain in equilibrium, so you have got 6, because it has got a finite size, it is not a particle. So, sum of forces must be 0 and sum of moments must be 0. So, sum of, there are 2, so vector equations are 2, this and this, and each one of this, because f is having 3 components, so you can take the components of the forces in the 3 direction. So, that is Fx, Fy, Fz, and similarly m can also be, you know, you can decompose this into moments about the 3 axes, and so that is mxx I, myy j, and mzz k. These are moments about 3 axes. So, let us say for this body my axes are like this, this is x, this is y, this is z. Any point P is measured with reference to this origin O here. P has got coordinates x, y, z. So, this gives rise to 6 conditions of equilibrium. 6 is scalar. So, you have Fx, Fy, Fz 0 and mxx, myy and mzz individually, all 3 0. So, 6, but basically 2 vector equations, you know, f and moment for any finite size. If it is a particle, if you are considering only equilibrium of particle, no size, so it does not matter, because all forces pass through that particle. So, you need to have only first one, no moment, because it is a, you know, is a collection of particles. So, okay, equilibrium. So, this body is in a state of equilibrium. Now, I would like to know this point, so this point I have already marked P, does not matter, this point P, another is there inside the body, it is point is inside the body. I would like to know what is happening there, what kind of force distribution exists there at point P inside the body. So, what I will do, I will pass a plane, I will cut this into through this point P, divide this body into 2 parts. So, divide this body into 2 parts. That means, I have passed a plane, of course, orientation of plane is left to us, whether you pass a plane like this or like this or like this, it is left to you. So, and things will change because of the orientation, but right now I am only saying that cut this body into 2 parts by passing a plane through point P. So, this body will look something like this. One part I will look, this is the, and then here this is the other part. Of course, forces are so, the 2 parts are like this. This I have, so this is the plane of interaction which I have shown. So, in one it is looking something like this, and point P is here. Yes. So, if you take a small area around this point P, and that way there are infinite number of points, infinite particles which are there on this plane. I am just taking a small area delta A around. So, when, because this body, if the total body is in a state of equilibrium, this body under the action of external forces are in equilibrium. So, these two bodies, that is part A and part B, should also remain in a state of equilibrium individually, and it is possible provided there are some interaction forces exist over here. So, unless there are interaction forces there, this equilibrium is not possible. So, that means at every particle here there will be some interaction everywhere, some direction, we are not saying what kind of interaction, but then, but in general let me tell you, this will be equal and opposite, Newton's third law. If it interaction at any point is, here it is like this, so here it should be interaction force, Newton's third law, equal and opposite, because when you then when you join them together, they must nullify each other. But when you open it, if this force is like this, on this body it should be like this. But then our, so let me draw, I am drawing point P, and this is delta A. It has been, it has been also noticed experimentally, it has been that two kinds of forces exist at each and every point. One is a linear force, some delta F, and also a moment. See, double arrow means moment, okay. Single arrow means linear force, other one is delta M. So, at every point on this plane of contact, you will find there will be two forces. Their directions will all be different, not that they will be all in the same direction. So, in general, now area also is a vector, because area can be defined by the normal, area is always defined by the normal to the plane. So, this is the positive normal, this is the negative normal, then this is a vector, this is also a vector. Stress. So, I will just give you a conceptual definition that we measure this distribution force as unit distribution forces. That means we cannot divide a vector this by, one is this distribution, other one is that is force per unit area and moment per unit area. This we call such quantities which are force divided by area, we call stresses or stresses, simple RESS. and this quantity moment we call it couple stress. So, simple stress and couple stress. I am not giving you very precise definition, because here I am showing that both are vectors. What will be vector divided by vector, what it will be. So, I am that way, it is only a conceptual definition. So, this is couple stress, but then most people, I mean most analysts, that is 99% people, they say that action of forces on the body can be represented very well by this alone. This alone depicts the behavior of body inside the body, and they forget about this, but actually this does exist. Couple stresses inside the body does exist. Every particle will be subjected to some kind of a couple, but then that effect is not that pronounced, and most people, most analysts, they neglect this. So, couple stresses they neglect it, but there are situations where couple stresses are important. So, this effect is and therefore neglected. There are situations where couple stresses are important, like if you want to find out stresses around cavities, around holes, close to the R, stresses close to the application of the load. Supposing you want to find out stresses around, I told you this is the point of stress concentration. So, wherever there is stress concentration, the effect of couple stresses become important, but away from these loads, couple stress, effect of couple stress is very small, and for a first course or even for an advanced course, not many people use this. So, only in a special situation we use couple stresses. So, we say that each particle is subjected to a small force distribution delta F, and that divided by area is defined by stress. Now there is a lot of confusion here. Now, what plane you have cut by one plane, somebody else to the same point will cut by another plane, the state of stress will be different. This force will be different on that plane. So, that means this is a phenomena, or this is a situation where the quantity stress depends on the orientation of the plane which passes through point P, not on the force. Force may be, force could be the same, but then the couple, this orientation of the plane, because force will depend upon the other consideration, like what is the external forces which are acting or keeping the body in equilibrium. But then this orientation of the plane that is there, that is mattering. So, that means stress is a quantity which depends not only upon the force that acts at point P, but also on the orientation of the plane on which it is acting. Okay. So, that means stress is a quantity which is more complex or of a higher order than the force, and force is a vector. Vector law is there, scalar law is there. So, scalar then vector. Vector has magnitude and direction. Scalar does not have direction. Now, this stress is the third type of quantity. Stress is a third type of quantity, and it is neither is scalar nor vector, but it is more than a vector, because it depends upon this orientation of the plane on which it is acting. If I change the orientation, the stress value changes, because force divided by area. Now my area changes, so stress changes. So stress, we call stress is a tensor. So stress is a, I will explain later what is a tensor, but right now I will just say it is a tensor. So let me now simplify the situation, so that, because we need some formulae. So at the same point, now my axis is x, y, z. Okay. I have the same body whose outward normal, I have to draw like this. Yes, this is x axis, this is y axis, this is. So I am cutting, I have cut the plane, because now I want to remain with my some. I have to let me discuss this problem with reference to Cartesian system of coordinate x, y, z, Cartesian. X, y, orthogonal. This is also orthogonal. Not that x, y, z can be inclined, they are orthogonal to each other. There are three planes which are cutting, and we get, by the cutting of the three planes, at three axes x, y, z, which are at right angle to each other. Now the first case, I have my body, the same body. I have cut it by a plane in such a way that outward normal is in positive x direction. So that means it is a positive x plane. Okay, positive. So this one, this plane is positive, and I am only considering one part of the body. Other part will be that will be negative x plane. Is it clear? If it is a positive plane, the other part will have a plane whose outward normal will go in the negative x direction. So that will be negative x plane. So we are considering now equilibrium of one whose outward normal is in positive x direction. So here I will say, let me define some things, and here I have a small area here, delta A around it, point P. Is it okay? So at this, now if you take so let me show you. So at this, on this area, the force that is acting in x direction is delta f x x, force that is acting in y direction is delta F x y, and the force that is acting is delta F. I will tell you what are these conventions. In general, I told you that at any point you have got one force and one couple. Any point of interaction you have two quantities, two vectors, one force. Then I said let us forget about the couple. So now we are taking only the force. I have taken now the component of that force into three direction, x, y, z. Call them as delta F, delta y and delta z. Now this one is a plane defined by x, positive x. So first one, the first subscript defines the plane x. Delta F x means these are forces acting on a plane whose outward normal is in x direction. Is it clear? And then what is the second one? Second one shows the direction in which it is acting. So this is x direction, this one is in y direction, this in z direction. So there are two subscripts. The first subscript defines the plane outward normal, and second subscript defines the direction in which the forces are acting. So basically this is a force delta F that is acting on this plane, and that has been divided, that has been decomposed into x I delta F x y j and plus delta F x z k. Is it clear? The force acting at around point P, force acting, that means force will act on a small area. A small area is dA. So I will now define this. I will take three ratios. Please just be patient and pay attention. So I will now take three ratios, three quotients, delta Fxx by delta A. What is delta A? Delta A is the area around point P, a small area, that ratio. Next one I will take delta Fxy by delta A. Now A here, A means Ax. See, there is only one, A means Ax, because outward normal is in x, so I can put it here Ax, defined by outward normal, and third one is delta x. Then I take limit of these quantities, because you know differential calculus, when you have two quantities, limit, when you define a quantity at a point, so you must take limit of this as delta Ax tends to 0, as delta Ax tends to 0, as delta Ax tends to, as area tends to 0, it will become a point. So I will define my quantity at a point. So this is defined as sigma xx. Why? This is the normal force divided by area. Fx is perpendicular to the area Ax. Is it clear? Fxx is perpendicular force, so it is a normal. So that I am denoting by sigma xx. What is the two subscripts? Again it has the same meaning. First one showing the area, second one the direction. This one will define by tau xy. Why it is tau xy? It is a shear force divided by area is shear stress, and it is xy, it is going in y direction, it is acting in y direction. So on a plane x, the force that is there in y direction, if you do this, So, this is called shear stress. This is one component of shear stress which is going in y, and this one I will define x z. So, on one plane x plane, so I am just saying now on a x plane, we have been advised not to clutter the sheet, use big letters, so that the diagrams are clear. So, now I just want to show that this one will be clearly. So, let us say I expand this area. So, you have this is x, this is y, this is z. So, I have now on this plane I have defined 3 stress quantities. So, on one plane there will be 2 shear stresses and 1 normal stress. Is it clear? But if you take the resultant of all the 3, there can be only 1 inclined stress. Is it not? I can also take this stress multiplied by the area dA, and then that will give me a force like something like this, inclined. So, we are just defining a general. So, on every plane, so I will continue this tomorrow. Yes, now the tutorial will be at 9:30 on Thursday. Come to the department, come on the first floor, and then from there we will distribute ourselves into 3 or 4 divisions.